My name is Ankush Johar. For those who find it complicated, AJ is simple. I will stick with that. So I run a fund. The fund is called InfoSec Ventures. It emanated out of Lloyd's Ventures. The fund is $50 million. And I've had the good fortune of putting in 1/4 that money. And that's why I'm here. And the presentation wants to run itself. All right. In fact, I'm going to do a lot of interactive conversation rather than focusing on the presentation alone. You have each a copy of the presentation with you anyway. Very quickly, I'd like to, Human Firewall, as the name suggests, centers around, so it's one of our investments. We've made 4 investments in total. One of them is bugsbounty.com. Second one is Human Firewall. The third one is emailauth.io, which is email authentication as a service, leverages DMARC. And the fourth one is Shield, SH1ELD. Yep. So I'm loaded with mics, one on this side, one on the other. Right, so when we made these investments, one of the key questions that we put to ourselves, to myself and the other 3 limited partners I have in the business, was, is the impact delta high? So when you're making investment into a cybersecurity company, is the impact to your lives primarily, or to the lives of the businesses that you're running, is the impact going to be high? Question number 1. Question number 2 was, can it scale? So, Human Firewall fit that bill. Bugs Bounty also fit that bill. The theme on which we've invested, 3 of the 4 businesses are around crowd-powered security. This is a bit about myself. I actually made my money in telecom. So what Gartner is to IT, I founded a company called Wireless Federation, which is the equivalent of what Gartner is to IT. We're 2 mobile operators. Work with 500 operators, 75 regulators. I'm now dedicating a lot of my time to information security. That's where my focus is. Now, I'll skip this. Crowd-powered security, if you look at it from an external perspective, you're saying, can I bring ethical hackers or the outside world, which you're open to, if you're open to business, anybody could come and leverage on your digital assets. So Bugs Bounty was focused on the external side of crowdsourced or crowd-powered security. And on the internal side, can you use your employees to be a sort of a firewall or a shield? Humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. The idea was, can we turn that around and make it one of the strongest? The other aspect is, because security is not the responsibility of the teams that you guys host yourself today. Problems can happen across the organization. It's the CISO who becomes the fall guy, or one of your team members who takes the fall, depending on how the culture in the organization is structured. We know this already, data breaches and cyber attacks, human layer, 90% of them are happening at the human layer, all else is 10%. But unfortunately, we're investing a lot of the money in the 10% and not in the 90%. Finally, I'm going to skip all the marketing spiel and come straight to the 4 main benefits that attracted us. Number 1, can one employee now be empowered to protect the entire organization? Do you have the systems and processes, is a very long word. Can we make it as simple as a button which sits in the workflow of your employees today? Outlook, from an email perspective, OWA, Outlook Web Access, G Suite if you're using, then can it sit within the interface itself to make the reporting as simple and therefore enabling that one employee to save the entire organization? Second, now if I was to use Pareto's principle, 20 and 80, I'd say the Human Cybersecurity Awareness Index is 20%, and the Human Information Security Preparedness is 80%. So we've got 2 indices which showcase on a dashboard. As a CISO, this can go further on to the board, and it gives you a number. It says, what percentage? So I'll describe these to you in a bit. I think I'll stay away from that. This is the most important bit. I've silently sat there and listened to a lot of you talking about culture and people and processes, but more on culture. Can we bring a culture? Now picture this, away from the presentation, picture this. A new employee joins, or an old employee is enrolled onto a program called the Human Firewall. The moment they join, they're told, you will be sent, we will be socially engineering you. We will be sending you emails, SMSs, WhatsApp. We might even go after you on Twitter. Bear in mind, CISO says, my team will be attacking you during the course of the year. I'm giving you two choices. You will either report it or you will get lured. Do nothing is not an option. Because if we're trying to bring a systemic change in the culture, it has to emanate from one single point. And to the success of this platform and the product, we've seen that this one simple thing should be either you report it or you get lured. Do nothing is not an option. Second is think before you click. First one being the most important in the platform. Now, training is a means to an end. Show of hands. Training is a means to an end. The end unto itself is to be able to protect when you're under a real attack. Why do you train?
I believe awareness is.
Okay, but is it to an end?
It's to a compliance end.
Perfect. So I rephrase. So whether reporting and remediation is towards protection or compliance, as the case may be, suits different industries differently. This platform enables you to actually give the power into the hands of every single, and you can do it at scale. The idea is today when you run programs, it's either one-on-one training, or it's a bunch of people, you take them away for an hour, you sit them down, you load information onto them. This platform allows you to do it on scale. So you could do it for 10,000 employees, you could do it for 200,000 employees. So it's been deployed on that larger scale as well. Okay, so Human Cybersecurity Awareness Index basically tells you percentage level of training. How many, so a lot of this is happening in your learning management systems anyway today. So I'm going to skip this part, but more important, it says percentage level, how many people have completed how many training modules, who are my champions, and who are my weakest links. What are the weakest areas of cybersecurity training and thus require specific attention, and more importantly, status of old versus new staff. It's when new staff comes in is when the risk sort of goes up as well. Take the guesswork out. Now, one of the things that the team has done very well is on the automation side. Automation of onboarding, so if you're using O365, for example, the moment you provision them on O365, they're already a part of this. And every single individual has their own learning path. You determine for the organization that these are the 12 or 10 or 18 most important information security policies, and there's a whole gamification process which then reaches out to every single employee individually and follows a specific path. I'll be showing that path to you. It's called the Socrates Framework. Here's the more important bit, the HISP. Your board, again, different industries would look at it differently. It says percentage of people who are now starting to report. Second, percentage of people who tend to get compromised. More importantly, time to report and time to remediate. So if we ran a simulation at 10 a.m. in the morning, what time did I receive the first report? Have I been able to cut that time down from a few hours to under 3 minutes? The target that this works with, depending on the size of the team, our focus is essentially on trying to get, depending on the size of the team, if it's a 1,000-man company, how soon will that first report arrive? And then how soon does the SOC team or does the platform remediate that? 5 modules: train, profile, report, remediate, and federate. Train it takes the heavy burden of the learning and awareness and training. Profile is very interesting because we're also putting a weightage on every single lesson, how that person performed. In fact, I'm going to jump one slide and come to this to explain that better. when you send out a campaign, how many opened it? What you see in red, which is clicked and compromised, is bad behavior. So there's points being taken out through the gamification platform. There's reported and trained, which is good behavior. Evaluated is how you performed in the questions that were administered to you after the training was over. And then to secured. And you're basically, if a training, on the learning path, if a training lesson has been shot out, it's giving you full reporting on every single aspect. And this weightage now applied to every single individual in the company is essentially giving you your true security posture. How soon will you receive reports? What percentage of people are trained, etc. Coming back, the report and remediate is again focused, and I'd say this is when we made the decision to invest. What was it that led us to put that sum of money on the table for them? And it was the ability for them to be able to bring the reporting and make it very simple, but more importantly, to be able to do something with that report, which is to quarantine or delete that email from across the organization just because one person or few people reported it. We're also keeping track of, so if in a bunch of 5 people, there's one person with 10 points, another with 100, and we set the benchmark or the threshold at 100, we're looking for 10 people with 10 points to report for us to take that report and remediate automatically. Alternatively, you have the option to manually remediate as well in any case. This is what the button looks like. Similar look in the OWA platform, and looks like a regular button within G Suite as well. One of the important things also is the positive feedback loop that the platform creates. The more people that become aware through the platform, the more they will report, the more takedowns will happen. So if there's been a real attack, for example, and there were, let's say, 100 people targeted in the organization or 5, it's essentially, whenever an email is quarantined, it's leaving a mark behind. It leaves an actual email behind in the inbox saying, you were targeted, this email has been quarantined. So you have 2 options. You have one which says reinstigate this email, which basically means put it back. I think there's been an error. And it says, look at the lesson. So it automatically picks up the training lesson to say that this is the kind of attack that happened on you, and this is probably what we perceive you were targeted for. And that takes us back into the more people will get protected and become aware. So it's a hugely positive feedback loop that gets created. Okay. The other thing we've done here is that, a lot of the times, some conservative companies would say, I don't want to socially engineer them once a month. I'd rather do that once a quarter, but the other 2 times I want to run it in school mode, which is I just want to do the simple, plain Jane announcement to say, this is my policy, or this is a new thing that we've done, or this is what I want you to know. The platform has the ability. The difference between school and life, in school you're taught a lesson and then given a test. And in real life, you're given a test that teaches you a lesson. So you can either start with social engineering, or you can just deliver a simple announcement and then have Socrates come into play, which is send, open, click, who's done it? Because a lot of companies don't have visibility of that today. Why the Human Firewall platform? What we believe is that the gamification gives you the ability to create a unique teachable moment. You send an email as an announcement, vis-a-vis you've just conned me into clicking, you have my full attention. And that gives us the ability to deliver that training lesson. The idea here is phishing scenarios, social engineering scenarios that are on the platform. There's about 400 of them on the platform already now, which you can choose from. Built for different industries, different teams, accounts payable, finance, legal, marketing, sales, etc. But the entire gamification is what has added the real power. The other one is real-time people-powered security. You're enabling your employees to be able to secure you. Multi-channel and multilingual is okay. Any questions on Human Firewall before I proceed on to Bugs Bounty very quickly, and then perhaps take your questions after that? No questions to begin with? Fantastic. Okay, let's come to Bugs Bounty. So Bugs Bounty, as the name suggests, show of hands very quickly familiar with bug bounty programs. Fantastic. Who's run them? Fantastic. Wow. Okay. Very happy to hear that. So we managed to pay $80,000 and buy this domain name. That was a pain that I carry very heavily in my heart right now. But we did manage to do it. And it seems to be paying off. Who's crowdsourcing and why? So there's insourcing, which you're doing already, your teams, your in-house teams. You're outsourcing to pen testing companies and other security companies. And then there's crowdsourcing. Now, in crowdsourcing, why is crowdsourcing superior? Or let's just say, don't want to make a very heavy claim of saying why is it the ultimate form of cybersecurity. But who's doing it? We'll start with that. So Facebook, Google, Slack, and there's been a show of hands. There are 4 CISOs here who've done crowdsourcing here, which is very encouraging to know. Now, Department of Defense in the US, Hack the Pentagon, was launched last year. On the back of the success of that, Hack the Air Force, Hack the Army were launched as well. Here are the results. 13 minutes to the first vulnerability. So the moment the program was launched, within 13 minutes you had the first vulnerability reported. 200 vulnerabilities were reported in the first 6 hours. 1,400 hackers participated in the program, and 138 valid bugs were found. Obviously, a lot of them were duplicates, some of them had low impact, but 138 valid bugs were paid for. On the back of that, $7 million has now been committed by the federal government. So the US operates with states, etc. The federal government has put in to say that every single federal department is now going to run, starting to 2017, going to run bug bounty programs of their own. Right. So there are 3 tiers in crowd security. The public programs tier is the riskiest because you're basically saying all and sundry, here I am, come hack me, find me a vulnerability, I'll pay you money. I'll pay you a bounty. Private programs, the likes of LinkedIn and Apple, essentially you're saying there's a close bunch of people who you're going to invite and you're only going to open it to them. You're basically trying to go beyond insourcing and outsourcing into the larger creativity of the security testers. So you're basically trying to go, it's not necessary that 2 or 5 people who've done your pen testing, their talent is enough to secure you because you're being attacked or could potentially be attacked by a very large number of people. For those that, whose companies' risk profiles don't permit them to do these, this team actually created a new tier called Securathon, which is simulation of crowd security. In simulation, what they've done is from the community of 15,000 now, they've basically hired the 31 best that they could, and the risk profile is the same as you would when you outsource. So if you outsource it to company A, security company A or B, these are full-time employees. The difference is rather than only 2 people or 3 people doing your pen testing, you've now got 31 who are going to simultaneously attack you. And the killer here, what impressed us tremendously, in fact, I don't think that slide is here, is 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 1,011. Because you're security professionals, I'll use this instance. One team finds SQL injections because they are very good at finding injections. The moment they have an SQL injection, they check to see if it is DBA true, which is database administrator true. If DBA is true, there's a possibility that you can do an RCE, which is remote code execution. Now, the second team which has the ability or they're experts at RCE, they don't know. If the injection wasn't there, they wouldn't have been able to do an RCE at all. Yeah? So the second team comes in. The third team then comes in to leverage that RCE and go across your data center if that was possible. Because once you're inside the DB server, then you have the ability. Third team comes in, so on and so forth. So it's the multitude of the expertise that helps tremendously. The best part, again, is pay for performance. Bug bounty programs are run on you find a bug, you get a bounty. This internal team works on the same principle, which is pay for performance. If they can't find you a P0 or a P1, there is no money to be paid. I won't go into, there's one more thing I want to very quickly tell you. Each of these members, 31, make between $3,000 to $18,000 per person per month on top of the salaries that bugsbounty.com pays to them. Because if they can't make money for themselves, they're no good to you or to our organization. Okay, I'm going to skip this. Thank you very much.